We're live. Welcome back, everybody. I know it's been a long time. Yeah. Well, I kind of was semi-retired there for a little while, as things went kind of crazy post the COVID. Not being able to get any parts or supplies or anything, it kind of killed my enthusiasm for doing anything at all. But hey, things are kind of back to normal again, so I have enough. I'm able to actually get parts. So I can do I can do things like make bags full of these RGB mods for the N64, or bags full of Super Nintendo D-Jitter RGB mods, or N64 simple, just the regular RGB amps, or regular Super Nintendo RGB amps. It's great. It's like everything, it's like nothing even happened. Alright, so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be installing an N64RGB into this N64 for a customer. And this should be just a simple, straightforward install, as I've done many of before on stream and in videos. But I figured we would go ahead and get back into streaming with something simple and easy and common. Plus, I don't know, some of my videos from previous times that I've installed N64RGBs may not be using the most up-to-date strategies and techniques, so I figured it would probably be a good idea to go ahead and just do the whole process fresh, using the most up-to-date procedures that I have. So we're going to go ahead and get this N64 apart and start installing this mod. And actually, before we get started, I haven't tested this N64. I just pulled it out of the packaging. We're going to go ahead and just check in advance that it is working. Let's see here. We'll just grab a composite cable. Apologies if I cough a little bit. I am getting over a cold from like 2 weeks ago, but I still have a little bit of a cough. Rogue Squadron. Oh. Hold on a second. Looks like my camera is frozen. Okay, we're back. Don't know what happened there. This is running through my cam link. Ooh. Frozen again. Okay. Well, that's not good. All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that. Try not to end up frozen over and over again. Don't know what's going on there. The stream computer has been updated since the last time I've actually streamed, because this is also my kind of like my workspace computer back here where I do my soldering. Okay. Excuse me. You won't be able to see this, but I'm firing up my PVM and we're gonna check and see if we've got N64 action going on here. Ah, and we do. All right, so we've got some fantastic Rogue Squadron action going on our fantastic, horrible composite cable. So it looks fantastically awful. And we're gonna do something about that today. And hopefully do a good job of presenting the most up-to-date strategy for doing this install if you're going to do it yourself. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take this thing apart. This is a 4.5 millimeter game bit screwdriver. You can get these anywhere. Amazon, you know, whatever. And we're frozen again. This is not going to be very fun if this continues to be an issue. Yeah, this one is going through my cam link. Give me a second here. I'm gonna go, hey, Merry Christmas, Alex. And, Notergy? Well, I'm gonna go check, I'm gonna go unplug my cam link and see what happens. When I go unplug it and replug it, see what happens. Well, that's not ideal. Okay, we're back. So I had to unplug and replug a couple of times the USB port. Let's see. Hopefully that helps. I really hope it's just a bad connection. Or I might have to switch to a different USB port entirely, but hopefully not. Anyway, we'll see how it plays out. Okay, let's get this N64 open. Oh, interesting. We have a little piece of controller port that chipped off here. It's a little unusual. I'll just put that away somewhere. Go ahead and continue disassembling. So I'm not sure exactly which motherboard revision we're dealing with here, but we'll find out shortly. Actually, there it is. CPU 04. CPU 04. I think that's going to have an AVDC NUS DAC in it. Or it could be a MAV NUS, but I think it's going to be an AVDC NUS. And that chip will still use the MAV NUS adapter, even though it is a different name, because it has the same pinout. All right. Oh, missed one. There we go. Oh, sorry. This is not a VDC NUS at all. It's a regular old VDC NUS, so it won't need a MAV NUS adapter at all. Cool. Huh. Weird. The controller port came with the top shielding. I've never seen that happen before. Why did this happen? That's so strange. The cartridge port doesn't normally come out with that. I mean, the cartridge port is removable on these things, so it can come out, but it doesn't normally. All right, so for this model, we don't actually need the MAV NUS adapter here, so we're gonna drop that back in the packaging over there. And we're gonna go actually take a look at something, because it's been a while since I've installed one on one of these older models. And I gotta go double check. Got to go double check exactly what pinout to use for this chip. There we go, N64. Okay. Okay, so for my mod, let's see here. For my version of this mod, you have you start down here at D0, and these are the digital lines from the RCP. So you got D0 through 6, and then you've got your clock and your digital sync lines and ground. You don't have any VCC lines here because this one has a built-in 12-volt input for the power regulator that creates the 3.3 volts that the chip actually uses to power itself. So because of that, we actually skip pin 1 on the VDC. We skip pin 1 here. So our installation actually starts right here on pin 2. And then we also skip pin 9. Pin 9 is also skipped. So what we're going to do is we're going to prep our cabling. And to do that, we basically just line it up here, count out how many rows we need of this ribbon cable, and then we're just going to cut it and strip the rest of it off. So essentially, if you line up D0 with the first pin of the ribbon cable, and then you just go over here, you'll see that the last control pad here lines up with this wire here, and then you have one more wire over, and that's going to be your 12-volt wire. So we're going to go ahead and cut. We're just going to score it right there, and then we'll just peel this apart. And these are the wires that are actually going to be attached to the N64. These are the wires that are actually going to be attached to the N64 from the N64 to the mod. Okay, so the next thing is we're going to solder this cable onto this board in advance because it makes it easier to install if the board is already soldered. But on the other end, we're going to go ahead and prep this cable entirely. But one of the things I like to do is on the end that's going to be attached to the VDC NUS is to go ahead and pre-strip off pre-separate the last 3 wires here, because this is 12 volt and then this is control and this is reset, and those are all going to go off down to the PIF, or well, 12 volt's going to go to a 12 volt pad, and then the other 2 are going to go off to the PIF NUS down here at the bottom of the N64 motherboard. So we don't need those are not going to connect to the VDC NUS, so we can just go ahead and split those off. So first I'm going to score across to get these ready to be tinned up and prepared. And then I'll do the other side too. If you pre-score it, it makes it a lot easier to strip these wires. And then I'll just take some side cutters like this and carefully just strip them off like that, so you have a stripped wire. And then you can come in with your soldering iron and a little bit of solder, and you can tin the wires. So those wires are nice and tinned up. We'll go ahead and do the other side. That did not go really the way that I expected it to. That does not want to come off. Wow. I must not have scored it deep enough. There we go. Okay, I had to put a little bit more pressure than I normally do, so some of these wires got frayed a little bit on the ribbon. So I'll just kind of squish them back in, and then I'll tin them, and they'll be great. They'll just be fantastic. So there you go. That's another set of wires tinned. Okay, so this end here is the one that I'm going to solder into this N64 side. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-score and separate off these three pads, or these three pins. And then, excuse me, on the VDC NUS, we're going to be skipping this pin right here, which should be 12, 11, 10, 9. So on our ribbon cable, and we're going to be skipping pin 1 as well. On our ribbon cable, we want to score right here, three pins in, right? So that we can separate it. So we've scored it. We're going to separate it just a little bit because we're going to skip one of these pins. So it needs to install something like this. Basically skipping that one pin and lining up like this. So that's what we're after. And then on the other end, we're going to go ahead, and like I said, we're going to go ahead and pre-solder it onto this end here. So the pad spacing on the board is exactly right for this ribbon cable, except the 12-volt line. I wanted to separate it off because it's higher voltage than anything else on the board, so it needs to be, I wanted to keep it further away so that the chances of shorting to the control line or something like that is very slim. So we split off that one so that it will line up over to its 12-volt pad. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-tin the pads on the board as well. Get a nice layer of solder on there. And then I'm going to use my micro soldering tip for this next part. You don't have to. You can use a larger tip. I just use my micro tip because it's easier than swapping tips on my main iron. You could use something like, you know, one of these chisel type tips like this. You could use something like that. That would be small enough. Or if you have something like one of these hook tips like this, that works well as well. I'm just using the micro tip because I have two handles, and one of them's got the micro soldering tip and the other one has the full size knife tip, which is generally my preferred method for most things. But we'll go ahead and get in here and basically line this up and start soldering it in place. We'll hit this with a little bit of no clean flux to make it a little easier, and then get our wire lined up. Oh, there we go. You want to make sure that you heat up the pad and the wire. Okay, now we can just go through all of them. Okay, and then the 12-volt line. Okay. So those are all tacked in, but they're not beautiful. So what I'm going to do now is come back in with a little bit of extra solder on my tip. Just a tiny, tiny little bit of extra solder. And we're just going to come back through and just reflow these. While applying downward pressure. You want to kind of, see, I'm kind of tilting the cable downwards like this, and that causes the wires to kind of fall into place. And I bridged that one, which is fine. Clearing bridges is like a skill that you need to have. And the way that you clear a bridge generally is to use the surface tension of the solder to help you basically pull the bridge from one place to another. So in this case, what I did was I used the surface tension of the solder to pull it from the bridge was over here. I used a little bit of heat and bridged it back over to this next set of pads over, and that caused the solder to flow out of this pad and then into this one, and that cleared the bridge because not all of that solder is going to flow with it, and it basically, some of it flows over to the next pad, some of it stays in the other pad, and that generally will clear a bridge. So if you ever get a bridge, that's kind of what you want to do to clear it. We'll add a little bit extra solder to the 12-volt line too. So that looks good. So this is basically prepped up. The only other thing is I'm going to go ahead and do the analog side of it as well. So we need to strip one line off of this remaining cable that we've got. And this cable is a little bit too long. We don't need it to be this long, so we're going to actually fold it over and cut it in half. So fold it over like this, and then just cut it in half from the center. So now we have half the length, and we can go ahead and prep this one as well. So we're going to do the same concept here. We're just going to pre-score it. And then we'll come in with our side cutters. And there you go. And then we're just going to go ahead and tin this again, just like we did the other one. And then we're going to tin the pads on the board. And then it's just the same concept as before. Okay, camera froze again. I'm gonna have to, I gotta figure out what's going on with that, but resetting it seems to help, so we'll try to figure it out later. So we want to go ahead and get the board in an angle where I can see what I'm doing. And we're going to add a little bit of flux again, and then we're going to take our cable that we prepped already, and then we're just going to go ahead and solder it in place just like we did on the other one. And we'll go ahead and add a little extra solder in, just like last time. Okay, then the last part of this is to go ahead and attach the analog AV breakout. This board just helps you to install everything onto the AV output port. And it does have a couple of extra features in there. If you're using a sync-on composite or a sync-on Luma cable, you can actually close this pad, switch it over to either Luma or composite, and then depending on the revision of the motherboard, you may have to remove some components off of the N64 motherboard to make that work. There's some resistors back here that you might need to remove on the composite line. Well, for sure on the composite line if you're going to use sync on composite, but possibly S-Video if you have certain models. Well, actually, you know, I think you have to remove it for all models of N64, so just never mind. If you're going to use composite or Luma, you got to remove resistors from the back of this board. We're not going to do that here because the customer did not request that, and so we're just going to set it up with C-Sync, which doesn't require any settings on here, but it's available if you need it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit that with a little bit of flux, and then basically do the same thing we've done everywhere else. Okay, this will be easier for me to see. I'm struggling here to get everything arranged in a way that I can actually see what I'm doing, but that you can also see what you're doing. I'm going to be getting a new microscope with a camera built in, so hopefully that will help where I can see better while also streaming and recording, because it is an awkward position that I have to sit in here to be able to show you what I'm doing while also being able to see anything at all. Okay, let's see. This sucks. Okay, we'll go ahead and hit that with a little bit of solder. Yep, I bridged those pads. And we're frozen again. Okay, that's just fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier. Oh, well, never mind. The bridge cleared on its own, but so that's all prepped up now as well. So we're going to go ahead and start installing on the motherboard. Let's see, what will be the easiest way for me to... Okay, that should work. Okay, so one of the things I like to do in preparation for soldering is I like to pre-tin the legs of the chip that I'm soldering. It's not strictly necessary, but I do find that it helps with the soldering. So I like to come in with the knife and just loads of solder and just pre-tin the chip. That chip is tinned and ready to go. Now we're going to go ahead and solder the individual wires. Now you want the wires to overlap onto the top of the legs of the chip that you're soldering and kind of push up against the legs. Like so. I'm really sorry about this freezing. I don't know what is causing it, but it's kind of annoying. But anyway, you get them lined up and then you just go in and heat them up. Come on, camera. Really? Okay. Sorry you couldn't really see that. Here, let's see. We'll shut off autofocus for a second here. Okay, so that main row of pins is done. And then we're going to take this portion here that we had to split off and separate to skip pin 9, and we're going to go ahead and solder that in place. Okay. So that's all done. You can see that's soldered in place. Oh, autofocus back on. You can see that's all soldered in place. Looks all good. So then the next thing is going to be connecting the control and reset lines. So we can fold this soldered ribbon cable over. And then we're going to take the portion that we split off and we're going to separate it. And then we're going to fold the board over again. And that leaves these wires coming down here. So we can install them onto the PIF. So the last wire on the very end is actually our 12-volt line. So we're going to go ahead and separate that because we don't need that to be coming down here to the control area. So we just separate that and peel it up because it'll be wiring up, it'll be soldering up here actually on that pad there. And then the control and reset lines, we'll go ahead and separate those as well. Like so. Okay. So on this model of N64 with the VDC, this one, the control line solders to pin 14, or no, pin 16 of the PIF, and then the reset line solders to pin 27 of the PIF. So we're going to go ahead and tin those pads. So that will be for the control line. And that will be for the reset line. And conveniently, on my RGB board, I have it arranged to where the control line is, once this is all folded into place, the control line is the leftmost line, and then the reset line is the second to leftmost line. So when you get down here, the control line is this one here that goes down to the bottom, and then the reset line is this one here. So we're going to go ahead and solder in the control and reset lines. We'll add a little bit of flux on both of those points. And that's done. And then the reset line, you can trim it short, but I usually don't. And the reason I don't is because it's extra work to trim it down shorter, and it doesn't really benefit you at all because the reset line doesn't necessarily need to be particularly short. It's not like it's sensitive to like the long run distance, and it just makes it easier for you to do. So if you can do something easier that won't hurt anything, then generally I would recommend doing the easier thing. The 12-volt line, you can cut that short. I'm going to do that here. I haven't always done it, but I'm starting to think it's a good idea because we are running there's really no point in adding extra resistance to the 12-volt line since we are running it, since it's the power for the entire board. So we'll go ahead and strip this. And then we'll go ahead and tin it again. And then we're going to go ahead and tin this leg right here on this regulator. This is the 5-volt regulator. It takes 12 volt in and puts 5 volts 5 volts out. Excuse me. Okay. So then we're just going to take our wire here, try to get everything arranged the way that it's going to be. So we're going to take our 12-volt wire here with some tweezers. We're just going to go ahead and heat up that pad. And there you go. 12 volt is connected. So that's basically how it needs to look. And then we can go ahead and add the shield back on top. And basically this ribbon cable is thin enough that it clears the shield without having to modify this area right here. It clears right underneath it. It's got plenty of wiggle room. It's not going to get damaged at all under there. And then we'll go ahead and just add the 2 screws here that hold the shield in place. That way it all stays together while we're doing the next part of the process. Okay, zoom out a little bit. So we're pretty close to being done at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up this shield a little bit because it's going to be the it's going to be what we're putting the mount, what we're going to be taping this mount to. So you don't want it to be like super dusty and dirty. Go ahead and dry it up with a towel. Okay, so then what's going to happen is you're going to lay your board over like this. And I always include a piece of adhesive, and you just stick that on the bottom of the board. Peel the adhesive and flip it over. And you want to just line the edge of the board up right to the edge of this shielding, like so. And then you want to take your AV breakout board, and you want to line that up on top of the AV port. And then what you'll notice is that this breakout board folds neatly behind here. So you get a fold underneath here, it folds this way, and then you get another fold right here. So it looks really neat. And then we're just going to go ahead and solder that AV breakout board in, and we'll be done with this mod. And that's that. And on this revision of the N64, we might also have to remove a C-Sync resistor. I think we probably will. But I need to check. Well, hold on. Let's just use the multimeter. So C-Sync is on this pin right here. Okay, so that's C-Sync there. And if C-Sync is on... Yeah, so we don't have to remove the resistors on this one, because this CPU04 model already has the resistors removed. So normally there would be a capacitor here and a resistor here and a resistor here, and that would be the C-Sync circuitry for the N64 motherboard, but it's already gone on this one, because in these CPU04s, this was the last generation of N64 motherboard to use the VDC NUS, and therefore the last one that supported the like regular traditional RGB amp, and they had already removed the C-Sync circuitry because it wasn't being used for anything. Some of the earlier model N64s actually did have the circuitry for C-Sync, and you have to take that, you have to remove that circuitry for this mod to work correctly, because this mod generates its own C-Sync signals. So that's kind of important. But anyway, so what we'll do now is we will go ahead and pop this back into its shell temporarily. Not going to put in all the screws or anything. I just want to pop it into its shell and do a quick little test run here. And we'll fire up the retro tank to test with. go ahead and grab my EverDrive, and we'll try a different game. Let's see, where's my controller?
Mario! Hello! Okie dokie! Yahoo! Yahoo!
And that was IGR. I just reset it with the controller combo. Let's see. We'll try Star Fox.
Message from General Pepper. Priority 1.
Okay, that's fine.
We need your help, Star Fox. Andross has declared war. He's invaded the Lilat system.
That's pretty much all there is to it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put this thing back together, and then we'll be good to go. This is my favorite part. Reassembly. I don't like to use the powered screwdriver for reassembly just because you don't want to strip out threads and plastic, especially on these old machines. The plastic is brittle. You don't want to be cutting new threads if you can avoid it. So I just like to manually put the screws back in. And that way, we don't run the risk of cracking or breaking anything. But I definitely do use the powered screwdriver to unscrew things because that's super convenient. And this last one is a little bit difficult to get in because the RGB board partially covers the location that it's supposed to go. So I use a smaller screwdriver that is actually intended for a smaller sized screw, but that way I can get it in, get it in sideways. Believe me, this does work. There we go. So it's in, but what you want to do is kind of angle the screwdriver. You still want the screw to go in straight, so you want to angle the screwdriver and try to basically tilt the screw over until it's straight, and then you want to you just want to reverse it until it drops into the thread, and then you should be able to tighten it down at an angle with it still going into the hole straight. And you can remove it that way as well. Okay. Let's see. Okay, and then we'll just hand tighten these as well. The main thing is that you want to find that that thread. You don't want to be cutting a new thread, so I always reverse until you feel the screw drop into the thread. And sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes you can't totally tell because sometimes it's not a very clean thread on the end there. But if you find that you think you've got it in, and then you start to drive the screw in, and you're getting a lot of resistance, then you need to back up and try again. But you'll feel it once you hit it, because when you start going forward, you know, driving the screw in the forward direction, you will feel whether or not you have a lot of resistance. And if you have a lot of resistance, you know you're probably not in the right spot. There we go. All right, that's done. We'll give it one last test before we send it along with some WWF Raw, which is a fantastic game to test with. It's really it's really not. It's another one of those games that it doesn't work. It doesn't use deblur. It doesn't work with deblur. It uses a different display mode than most N64 games, so it's kind of awkward. But it's fun. I like it. I like it for test purposes because it's goofy. And we got nothing probably because my WWF No Mercy cartridge is in rough shape. There it is. Oh, you have to have a controller plugged in. I forgot. It won't proceed without one. I just love the opening song. It's the best. I mean, when you fired this up in Christmas in 1998 or whatever, this had been
Oh my God! So close! He kicked out! He kicked out! He kicked out!
Smash him! Smash him! Smash him!
Alright, that's enough of that. Okay, that's a job done. And that concludes what I intended to stream today. So, let's see. Anybody got any questions? Was that clear? No, it was maybe not super well organized. I haven't streamed in a while, so kind of don't completely have a flow together just yet, but I'll try to get a little bit better organized for future streams. I want to do a Wii HDMI stream soon because I am on the cusp of offering those for sale to end users instead of only as an install service, because up to this point I've been doing it only as an install service, but I finally got manufacturing sorted out in such a way that I just have piles and piles and piles of not yet depaneled and programmed Wii HDMIs. So it's the main reason I didn't sell them before is because the unique combination of circumstances that led to ultimately me closing, more or less closing down my shop for a while, was also affecting my ability to get parts to make these Wii HDMIs in large quantities. And so if I could only make a small quantity of them, I didn't want to sell through them on my website and then be stuck with nothing, no offering at all on there. So up to this point, I've only been offering it as an install service because I wanted to, have it available. But now I've got production sorted out, so I have a lot of these, a couple hundred right now, and the ability to rapidly produce a lot more in short order, if need be. So, yeah, look forward to that. We've also got some arcade hardware coming out as well. I've resumed work on the Vulix and Sega JAMA kits that I was putting together for playing JAMA boards on JVS cabinets. So some arcade stuff, and just did a run of Vulix console IOs. I also got a run of Sega console IOs for Sega JVS cabinets. And actually, I have some of those. Where did I put those? I have some of these built. The only thing I'm waiting for right now, I sold out of the ones I had available because I ran out of IDC connectors for making the cables that go with these. But this is the Sega console IO, and it's designed to slot into a Sega JVS IO on a Sega arcade cabinet, and allows you to connect Brook-style fighting boards. So you can hook this up to a computer, or you can hook that arcade cabinet up to a computer, or you can hook it up to a video game console. Anything from anything that's compatible with the fighting board you're trying to use on there. They've got PS5 fighting boards, Xbox fighting boards, the Universal fighting board, the classic that works on, I think it's like Xbox 360, Xbox One, PlayStation 4. So yeah, that's what this is for. I have these, I just don't have the parts for the cables, but those are on the way. I hopefully will have them close to the beginning of the year. I'm thinking first week of January, I'll have all the parts available for those. And then for Vuelix IOs, I just sold through an order of those. This is the older version. This is the V3. What I'm selling now is the V3.1, but I do still have a few of these available. But this is for putting this. It's the same thing. It's for putting Brook style boards. Like, well, here's an example. The retro board installs on here, and then this goes into an Vuelix arcade cabinet. So I got a few different things being offered there. I sold a bunch of these, the V3.1 versions of them, and I've got an order in for more of them. So I will have them again as well soon. So, all right, well, I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to go over today. I am going to do, like I said, a Wii HDMI install soon, hopefully sometime this week. I have a Wii here that's just waiting to get installed. It's a hideous, disgusting Wii. And it's the Wii Family Edition that doesn't have GameCube controller ports, so that's kind of a bummer. But yeah, it'll be a good example of the HDMI mod that I can install to show how it goes in on the newest setup, and hopefully not run into any issues while doing it. My couple of other ones I've done on stream, I've had issues with earlier prototypes, and issues with cabling. I've got a brand new HDMI cable, a nice high quality mini HDMI cable. So hopefully we won't have any cable issues. That was one of the issues I had last time. And then one of the prototypes had an issue with the way some of the resistors were arranged in the HDMI port, and that caused a problem too. Those have all been resolved, so I think this install is going to go perfectly smooth and would be kind of like a representative install for the end user. I also have a new Flex available now that does not require removing the capacitor and soldering it on like the old Flex did. It just has a cutout that allows it to sit on top of the capacitor in the Wii, so that's cool. But anyway, that's all I got for you. That should do it. I will catch you guys soon. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Thursday. Hopefully one of those days. We'll see. All right, catch you later.